Hello, I'm Derek Ray, and you're listening to the Scottish Football Forums podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the third episode of the Scottish Football Forums podcast. I'm Craig, I'm the founder of Scottish Football Forums, and I'm once again joined by Laurie, who is a regular contributor to the forum and writes for the blog section. Good evening, Laurie.
Hello, how are you doing?
Joining us as our guest this week is somebody who also writes for our blogs and somebody who I've played football with for probably more than 5 years. Good evening, Marc.
Good evening. It's been about 5 or 6 years now, Craig, I think.
It has, every Friday night, yep. In today's podcast, I'd like to start off with doing a review of the games over the weekends and maybe looking back at our predictions last week to see how me, Laurie and Fraser got on. I'd also like to cover a couple of topics that we've discussed in the forum during the week. The first one of these is supporting your rivals in Europe, discussing whether you, for the good of the country, you can bring yourself to supporting your bitter rivals. I also like to cover the World Cup draw and also a look at footballers who sound like various food items. It was a topic that was started by Big Bluenose Bear in the forum, and there's been some good suggestions, so I'd like to go through those. And to end with, I'd like to do a preview of the games for next weekend, and I'd like to get all our predictions.
Cool.
Okay.
The first game I'd like to talk about from this weekend was Saturday lunchtime's game with St Johnstone versus Rangers. The build up to the match, there was some interesting rumours going about that Ali McCoist was going to start with Papac on the left of midfield and Morris Edu on the right, and I instantly dismissed these as vicious rumours because I couldn't see Papac working on the left, and Edu, to be honest, I can't see why he would even be on the pitch. But it was clear that they did start with Papac on the left, and I actually thought he did okay. He's not the type of player that bombs forward, but he did have Wallace there to do that for him on the overlap. But I thought Papac, he's got a good cross on him, albeit when he's doing it maybe a bit too deep, but it's good nonetheless. Edu on the right, I'm not really going to go into that because I just don't see how he gets a start at all. I was really impressed with Goyen in defence. He looked solid enough and he definitely looked commanding. He didn't look like he wanted to play too much football, but with his first game for the club, I'm not too bothered about that. I was impressed with Naismith, particularly his goal. The cross came in pretty deep and he got a really good head on it. Jelavic as well was solid for the goal. Man of the match, I'd probably go for Naismith for that. I just think he was very busy. What about yourself, Laurie? Did you watch it?
I didn't watch it, no. I listened to, I think, most of the first half. I, like you, when I heard the team news, I was a bit surprised, especially that Eddie was playing at all. I don't think it matters whether he's right midfield or centre midfield. He just doesn't seem to fit in or produce any time for Rangers. The left especially confused me because you had Wallace, who can play midfield, who has a lot of strengths going forward, taking players on, getting crosses in, and Papac, who I think his strength lies more in his defensive side. Well, I think he can go forward as well. So it seemed a bit odd that they'd have him that way around. But by all means, it worked. He got the result. From what I heard, they played okay. I don't think St Johnstone were ever going to provide them with too much problems. I couldn't tell man of the match from just listening to the first half, to be honest. But from what I read, Lee Wallace got given man of the match in a couple of places I read. I think he put in a good ball for the Naismith goal as well from the free kick, I believe. And by all accounts, he was meant to have had a good game, but I think it would probably be more relief from everywhere around Ibrox, especially for a certain Mr. McCoist, that he got the win. And I went with, in predictor-wise, I went with 3-0. So that was the only thing I got any points for, was the Rangers game this weekend. So got something right at least. How about yourself, Mark? How did you see it going?
I thought Rangers played well. I thought they were well deserved the 3 points. It was a massive 3 points, really. I mean, when you think about it, like you say, a bit of relief for McCoist and everybody there. But Naismith's, the build-up for the first goal, Jelavic tucked it away. Sorry, that was the second goal. Jelavic tucked it away. I thought they were well worth the 3 points. But like you say, St Johnstone were never really going to threaten the 3 points, I don't think. So overall, a good result for Rangers and much needed.
One thing I'd like to mention is There was one cross came in from the left from Rangers, and Jody Morris somehow managed to win the header. I don't think that's going to happen very often in his career, so I thought I'd highlight it.
Is that is your new guy not 6'5" or something ridiculous like that?
He's massive. He's massive. He's not very big built. He's maybe more the crouch gangly. Maybe not as gangly as him, but he's not the type of guy that you're going to want to go up against for a header.
Unless you're Jody Morris.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I forgot to mention my prediction from last week, and I should have been shouting that out actually because I predicted 2-0 to Rangers.
Well done.
So 100% right.
Well done, Craig.
Right, we're just going to end things there because that's me. 100% retired. That's it over. Fraser he went for 3-0 to Rangers, so I think overall we did pretty well with that one. The next match, I'd like to discuss the St Mirren against Aberdeen match, which finished 1-0 by a goal from Hasselbank. I only got to see the highlights via the BBC website, but I was really impressed with Hasselbank. He's really good with his feet. There was a chance early on when I think he got by maybe 2, maybe 3 players, and unfortunately hit it wide. But to get himself into that chance, he was done well. He had a very poor header. I think it was in stoppage time of the first half. Free header, maybe 6 yards away from the goal, and headed it wide. So that was one bad mark against him, but he did come out after the break and score. Did you get a chance to see it, Laurie?
I didn't know. I was going to say, I hope Hasselbank's good with his feet, since his profession lies in the sport it does. But I didn't get to see the game, no. I do like Hasselbank. I actually rated him in my top 10 signings in the SPL last season, even though he only scored a couple of goals. I think he's quick, he's got good feet, and I did say that he'd be a great player to play alongside someone who's a bit stronger, good in the air. So I think he could be a good sort of foil for Stephen Thompson. From what I heard, St Mirren played really well. They knocked the ball around again really well, which is what I saw from them against Dunfermline. The brief reports that I saw of the game said that they kind of fully merited the win, so I think they'll be delighted with that. Hasselbank will be delighted with getting a goal so early, especially if you're a striker. The pressure can start to kind of build on you if you don't get that first goal for a while. So to get that off his back straight away will be good. And I've said at the start of the season, I think St Mirren will do a lot better this year. I think they've made some great signings, and I think Hasselbank and Thompson could be a good pairing. As for Aberdeen, I went for 1-1 with this game. I said that it'll either be 1-1 or maybe one goal either way. I didn't see there being much goals. I'm surprised a few people, maybe with Aberdeen at heart, predicted 3 goals for the away team, but with their attack just now, I just never saw that. So yeah, it'd be disappointing for Aberdeen and for Brown, but it's away from home. It's early in the season, but I think St Mirren and Danny Lennon will be delighted at that sort of start.
Yeah, I agree. I was very impressed with St Mirren, and as we say, especially Hasselbank. I think it's going to be a big signing for them. Aberdeen pretty much didn't show up. From what the BBC, Liam McLeod said, they were utterly outplayed, and I can only agree with that from what I've seen. Kind of worrying times for Aberdeen, but I wouldn't think it was time to push the panic button just yet.
I noticed that Fivey didn't start. What's up with him?
I have no idea.
I like to highlight some of the key points, and Stephen Thompson blasting it over from about 6 yards within the 6 yard line. Did you see that, Marc?
I certainly did, aye.
It's one that he'll want to forget, definitely.
Yeah, he will want to forget that one, I'd imagine. But Hasselbanks was just as bad before the half, like you say. But he did make amends for it after the break.
I went with Aberdeen for my prediction for that one, and I went for 2-0, so that's pretty poor. Fraser went for 1-1, the same as yourself, Laurie.
Yep, I remember that. So I don't think it was too off. I didn't expect St Mirren to be so comfortable as Marc says, and from what I saw on the BBC, that they were meant to be in control the entire game. I didn't expect that, I have to say. But yeah, not surprised overall that it went a 1 goal to the home side.
The next match-up was the goalless draw between Kilmarnock and Motherwell. Again, watched the highlights, and there was a couple of penalty claims for Dayton for Killie.
It kind of goes back to the argument, if those fouls were made outside the box, I reckon free kicks would have been given.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, I agree with that.
Because it's in the box, referees just don't want to know about it, in my opinion.
I couldn't add anything because I didn't see the game, I'm afraid. But I know what you mean in terms of fouls. They're always reluctant to give things in the box that you would otherwise give fouls for elsewhere. I suppose just keeping it safe. A free kick on the halfway line, no one ever really talks about that, no matter how controversial the decision might have been. But if you give a penalty and it's wrong, people remember it for a very long time, let's say, especially if it's
Yeah.
certain
Yeah.
Glasgow-based teams playing.
I did notice that they focused on Craig Levine in the crowd. Credit to him for choosing the Killie Motherwell game over sunning himself in Rio.
It's probably because there wasn't anyone else in the crowd to look at, was there?
I mean, he could have been enjoying was it 15 or 18 million pound draw for the World Cup? I'm sure that would have been a good jolly. I went for a 2-0 win for Motherwell for that, so I was very wrong. Fraser went for 3-1 for Killie.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, surprisingly, yeah.
I went 2-1 Motherwell, but I'm beginning to think Killie might surprise a few people this year from what I've seen of them against Dundee United and what I heard about yesterday's game. It sounded like it was apparently a very patient passing game, they were saying on the BBC today, as they said it was in stark contrast to today's game at Tynecastle, which was furiously flying from end to end. That yesterday was a continental style about Kilmarnock and Motherwell knocking it about. So it's interesting to have a couple of different styles, I suppose, going that we have got a couple of teams who want to keep it on the ground and maybe show a bit of patience. I think a few teams are looking like they could do better than maybe people predicted early on this year.
Yeah, still early days. The next matchup is Inverness versus Hibs, which Hibs won 1-0. Overall, I think Inverness looked good. Obviously they lost, but I think they looked good again. They were really unlucky for Gary O'Connor. I think it was stoppage time. Managed to score from a fairly tight angle. I thought the defender was going to come back and stop it. And Essen got a very strong hand to it, but it managed to sneak in. Did you manage to watch it, Mark?
I've seen the highlights, yeah. I think it's a sore one for everyone involved at Inverness, but it's the same story as last week. They didn't take their chances, and it was a mistake on the midway halfway line, wasn't it, that led to the goal. So it could have quite easily ended 0-0, but that's what happens. That's football, and I think they'll be hurting a wee bit up in Inverness.
I am not entirely surprised again. I'm afraid with my busy weekend, I've not actually seen this game either. I'm terrible for this one, you know.
It's been noted, Laurie, don't worry.
I know. The black mark on me for
Mark,
this.
Mark, what are you doing next week? You want to become the regular centre?
I'm not surprised at the score. Exact like St Mirren Aberdeen, I put down a 1-goal victory. I put down 1-1 rather, but I wouldn't have been surprised if it went 1 goal either way. And it went to Hibs. I think Inverness, I definitely saw them struggling to begin with anyway, because they had such a vast change in their team, which they're not accustomed to. I think it'll be a big thing for Calderwood, because he's obviously under a bit of pressure because of the rumours about him going. Is he going to stay? So I think to get that win would be important for them. And I do remember Gary O'Connor scoring an injury time winner from a tight angle in the Edinburgh Derby a few years back, which was very difficult to take. So I feel for Inverness. I feel their pain just now. So I understand it. But it'll be good for O'Connor to get his first goal, if you're a Hibs fan, that is. And it'll be good for Calderwood to get that win. And I just don't like looking at the table and being a few points behind Hibs. It's not something I'm used to.
Yeah. I was for the prediction. I went for a 2-1 victory to Hibs. So in the forum predictor, I would get a point for getting the actual result correct. Fraser went for 2-2, but I'm sure he'll claim that he did say that Hibs would win, but he had the caveat that they would only win if Calderwood had left. So I'm not sure he can claim that.
No,
that's void.
Yeah, he's trying to cover all bases.
Yeah.
I might try that with the preview later on. And the final match of the weekend was Hearts versus Dundee United, which Dundee United won 1-0 from a goal by John Daly. Unfortunately, due to when we're recording this, the highlights aren't on the BBC website, which I'm not sure why it takes so long for them to get it on, but it's 6 o'clock for all the other games, but this one isn't included. Going to have to wait until tonight, BBC 2, to watch it. The write-up that I read, Pernas and Kello both played really well, although the stats wise, which is really all I've really got to go on, there was only 2 shots on target for each team. I'm not really sure how Kello could have played well if that's the case. Did you